The unexpected encounter Marcus Kane had always been proud of his scars. Each one told a story of survival, of humanity's refusal to give up when the odds were stacked against them. The jagged mark on his left forearm was his favorite, a reminder of the mining accident on Kepler 442b that should have killed him but didn't. He wore it like a badge of honor, never bothering to hide it beneath his sleeves. The trading station orbiting Proxima Centauri was busy as always. Humans, Cepharians, and dozens of other species mingled in the corridors, conducting business that kept the galaxy's economy flowing. Marcus was there on official business, negotiating a new mining contract for the Terran Colonial Authority. It was routine work, but someone had to do it. He was reviewing holographic contracts at a corner table in the station's cantina when she walked in. Tall, graceful, with silver blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the artificial lighting. Her species was unfamiliar to him, but that wasn't unusual. The galaxy was vast, and new civilizations made contact regularly. What was unusual was how she stopped dead in her tracks when she saw him. The alien woman's large, violet eyes locked onto his arm where his sleeve had rolled up, revealing the scar. Her expression shifted from casual interest to something Marcus couldn't quite identify. Shock? Recognition? Fear? She moved toward his table with deliberate steps, her movements fluid like water. Other patrons seemed to instinctively move out of her way, though Marcus wasn't sure if it was out of respect or unease. "Excuse me," she said in perfect standard, her voice carrying a musical quality that made Marcus look up from his work. "That mark on your arm, where did you get it?" Marcus glanced down at his scar, then back at her. "Mining accident. Why?" "The alien's breath caught." She reached out as if to touch his arm, then stopped herself. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward the empty chair across from him. "Sure," Marcus replied, curious now. He'd encountered plenty of aliens fascinated by human physiology, but this felt different. She sat down, never taking her eyes off his arm. "My name is Zaraketh of the Valorian Collective." "And that mark?" She paused, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "That's the sacred symbol of my people. The mark that appears only on those destined to be mated to our kind." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "The convergence pattern," she continued, tracing the air above his scar without touching it. 3 intersecting lines forming a triangle, with the smaller mark at the base. It's identical to the prophecies. "Lady, I think you've got the wrong guy. This is just scar tissue from a plasma cutter malfunction." But Zaraketh shook her head. "Among my people, there are legends. Ancient stories of bonds that transcend species, of destined pairs marked by the universe itself. We thought they were just myths until now." Marcus stared at her, then at his arm. The scar did form a triangular pattern, now that he thought about it. But destiny? Cosmic bonds? He was just a mining supervisor from Earth's outer colonies. "This is crazy," he muttered. "Perhaps," Zaraketh said, her eyes never leaving his. "But crazy or not, you bear the mark. And according to our customs, that makes you mine." The sacred bond, the cantina around them, seemed to fade into background noise as Marcus tried to process what he'd just heard. He dealt with plenty of alien customs in his line of work, but this was entirely new territory. "Let me get this straight," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You're telling me that because I have a scar that looks like some symbol, I'm automatically, what? Married to you?" Zaraketh's expression grew serious. "Not married in your human sense. The bond is deeper than that. It's a connection of souls, recognized by the universe itself. Among the Valorians, it's considered sacred." Marcus rubbed his temples. "Look, Zaraketh, I appreciate the cultural lesson, but I'm not looking for a cosmic connection. I'm here on business." "I understand your skepticism," she said, her voice patient. But consider this. In all of galactic history, there have been fewer than a dozen recorded instances of interspecies bonding marks. The mathematical probability of your scar naturally forming our sacred pattern is astronomical. Coincidences happen, do they? Zaraketh reached into her robes and withdrew a small, crystalline device. She activated it, and a holographic image appeared between them. It showed an ancient stone tablet covered in symbols, with one particular mark highlighted in golden light. Marcus felt his breath catch. The symbol was identical to his scar, down to the smallest detail. This tablet is over 10,000 years old, Zaraketh explained. It predates human space travel by millennia. The prophecy speaks of a time when the Valorians would find their destined mates among the stars, marked by the symbol of unity. Marcus stared at the hologram, his mind racing. Even if this is real, even if your prophecy is true, what does it mean? What are you expecting from me? I'm not expecting anything, Zaraketh said softly. The bond doesn't force feelings or actions. It simply ... is. But it does mean that we are connected, whether we choose to acknowledge it or not. Connected how? She hesitated. It's difficult to explain in your language. Valorians experience emotions and thoughts differently than humans. When bonded, we can sense each other's well-being, share strength when needed, and... She paused, her silver-blue skin taking on a slightly deeper hue. We become more than the sum of our parts. Marcus found himself studying her face, noting the way her eyes seemed to hold depths he couldn't fathom. There was something about her presence that felt familiar, though he couldn't explain why. You said there were only a dozen recorded instances. What happened to those couples? They became legends, Zaraketh replied. The bond between species often produces offspring with remarkable abilities. Enhanced strength, telepathic connections, sometimes even precognitive skills. But more importantly, they became bridges between worlds, helping to unite different civilizations. And you think that's what this is? Some cosmic matchmaking service? Zaraketh smiled, and Marcus felt something stir in his chest. I think the universe has a sense of humor. A human mining supervisor and a Valorian diplomat brought together by what you call coincidence. You're a diplomat? I was heading to the Galactic Council chambers when I saw you. There's a crisis developing. Several species are threatening to withdraw from the collective due to territorial disputes. It's my job to find a solution. Marcus looked at his arm again and back at her. This is insane. Yes, she agreed. But perhaps insanity is exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Despite himself, Marcus found he was intrigued. What would this bond mean, practically speaking? It would mean that whatever challenges lie ahead, we would face them together. Your human ingenuity and determination, combined with Valorian wisdom and patience. She leaned forward. It would mean that for the first time in my life, I wouldn't be alone in the universe. Something in her voice made Marcus look at her more carefully. Beneath the diplomatic composure, he sensed a loneliness that resonated with his own. I need time to think about this, he said finally. Of course, but Marcus Kane of Earth... She used his full name, though he hadn't given it to her. Time may be something we don't have much of. The growing threat the next morning, Marcus found himself in the observation deck of the trading station, staring out at the stars. He'd barely slept, his mind churning over everything Zaraketh had told him. The logical part of his brain insisted. It was all elaborate nonsense, but something deeper kept pulling him back to the memory of her violet eyes. I thought I might find you here, came her musical voice from behind him. Marcus didn't turn around. I've been thinking about what you said, and I keep coming back to one question. If this bond is real, why don't I feel it? Shouldn't there be some cosmic connection or mystical awareness? Zaraketh moved to stand beside him at the viewport. The bond manifests differently for each species. Humans, I'm told, experience it as intuition, as a sense of rightness or completion. For Valorians, it's more immediate, a harmonic resonance in our consciousness. Harmonic resonance? Like finding the perfect note that completes a song, she explained. When I saw your mark, I felt whole. For the first time in my life. Marcus glanced at her. How old are you? By your standards, approximately 300 years. And you've been alone all that time? Valorians mate for life. We don't form casual relationships. Most of us accept that we'll live and die alone rather than settle for anything less than the true bond. Marcus felt a pang of sympathy. That sounds lonely. It is. But it also means that when we do find our match, the connection is absolute. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars. Then Marcus noticed something odd. A ship approaching the station at high speed, its trajectory erratic. That's not a normal docking pattern, he observed. Zaraketh's expression grew alarmed. That's a Valorian vessel. They're transmitting emergency codes. The station's communication system crackled to life. All personnel to emergency stations. Incoming vessel reports hostile pursuit. Marcus grabbed Zaraketh's arm. Pursuit by whom? I don't know, but if they're targeting Valorian ships... She pulled out her crystalline device and activated it. The holographic display showed tactical information, flowing in symbols Marcus couldn't read. What is it? It's worse than I thought. This isn't just about the Galactic Council crisis. Someone is actively hunting Valorians. 3 ships have been destroyed in the past week, all carrying diplomatic personnel. The emergency sirens began, wailing as the station's defensive systems activated. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the damaged Valorian ship limping toward the docking bay, with 3 sleek, black vessels in pursuit. Who would want to attack your people? I don't know, but ... Zaraketh's eyes widened as she read more of the incoming data. Marcus, they're not just hunting random Valorians. They're specifically targeting those who carry the bonding genetics. What does that mean? It means they know about the prophecy. They're trying to prevent the bonds from forming. The station shuddered as weapons fire erupted outside. Marcus watched in horror as one of the black ships fired on the fleeing Valorian vessel, critically damaging its engines. We have to help them, he said. How? This is a civilian station with minimal defenses. Marcus's mind raced. His years in the mining colonies had taught him to think creatively under pressure. The asteroid processing equipment in Bay 7. If we can modify the particle beam emitters. You want to turn mining equipment into weapons? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Can your people's technology interface with our systems? Zaraketh nodded. But it would require precise coordination. The timing would have to be perfect. Then we'd better start working. Marcus headed for the exit, then paused. Zaraketh, earlier you asked if I felt the bond. I'm starting to think maybe I do. She looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. What do you mean? I mean that a few hours ago, I was just a mining supervisor with a routine job. Now I'm about to jury-rig industrial equipment to save people I've never met, simply because you asked me to. He smiled grimly. If that's not some kind of cosmic connection, I don't know what is. Together, they ran toward the maintenance levels, with the sound of battle echoing through the station around them. For the first time since this all began, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. The battle for unity, the maintenance bay, was chaos. Sparks flew from damaged conduits. As the station shook under enemy fire, Marcus worked frantically to reroute power from the asteroid, processing equipment while Zaraketh interfaced her crystalline device with the station's systems. There, she said, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. I've established a connection, but the power flow is unstable. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow. That's because we're pushing these systems way beyond their design limits. How much time do we have? The Valorian ship is losing life support. Maybe 5 minutes. Then, we'd better make this count. Marcus slammed his fist against a stubborn coupling, finally getting it to lock into place. I'm routing all available power to the particle beam array. When I give the signal, you'll need to target the lead attack ship. Marcus, I should tell you something. Zaraketh's voice carried a note of urgency. The data from the rescue ship, it contained intelligence about our attackers. They're not just hunting bonded pairs randomly. What do you mean? They're servants of the hegemony, an ancient faction that believes in species purity. They see interspecies bonds as abominations that must be eliminated. Marcus felt a chill. How many are there? Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. If they succeed in preventing the bonds from forming, it could mean the end of galactic unity. The collective would fracture, and we'd return to an age of isolation and war. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the viewport, Marcus could see the Valorian ship's hull beginning to glow from internal fires. Status report, he barked. Power levels at 90%. Targeting systems online. But Marcus ... Zaraketh hesitated. The weapon array will only fire once before overloading. We'll have one shot. Then we'd better make it count. As they worked, Marcus became aware of something strange. His movements seemed to anticipate Zaraketh's needs, and vice versa. When she reached for a control interface, he was already adjusting the corresponding power coupling. When he called out technical specifications, she was already implementing the solutions. Are you feeling it too? She asked softly. The synchronization? Yeah. Marcus paused in his work. It's like we're thinking with the same mind. The bond is strengthening under stress. In ancient times, bonded pairs could coordinate entire battles without speaking a word. Handy ability. Marcus made a final adjustment to the targeting computer. Okay, we're as ready as we'll ever be. You have the target? Locked on the lead hegemony vessel. But Marcus ... There's something else. The energy signature from their ships, it's not just standard weaponry. They're using some kind of psionic disruptor. English, please. It's designed to sever psychic bonds. If they hit us with that weapon... She didn't need to finish the sentence. Marcus felt a surge of protectiveness that surprised him with its intensity. They're not going to get the chance. On my mark. 3.2.1. Fire. A modified particle beam lanced out from the station like a spear of pure energy. It struck the lead hegemony ship dead center, overloading its shields and causing a cascade failure throughout its systems. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. Direct hit. Zaraketh shouted over the station's alarms, but their victory was short-lived. The remaining 2 hegemony vessels turned their attention to the station, and Marcus could see their weapons charging for another attack. They're targeting the docking bay where the Valorian ship is, he said. If they destroy it... all the survivors will die, Zaraketh finished, including the bonded pair aboard that ship. Marcus stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. The modified mining equipment was overloaded and useless. The station's standard defenses were no match for military-grade weapons. But then an idea struck him. The cargo bay, he said suddenly. There's a shipment of quantum explosives waiting for transport to the Kepler mining operation. You want to use them as weapons? I want to use them as bait. Marcus was already moving toward the cargo bay controls. If we can lure the hegemony ships close enough to the station, we can detonate the explosives and take them out. That will destroy part of the station. People will die. People will die anyway if we don't stop them. Marcus met her eyes. Sometimes you have to risk everything to save what matters most. Zaraketh nodded slowly. Then we do it together. Working. In perfect synchronization, they began the most dangerous plan either of them had ever attempted. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing moment, until Marcus felt like he could anticipate her thoughts before she had them. Ready? He asked. Ready, she confirmed. Together, they initiated the sequence that would either save the station or destroy it completely. The new alliance, the explosion, lit up space like a newborn star. The two remaining hegemony vessels were caught in the blast radius, their shields failing as the quantum explosives detonated. Marcus watched through the viewport as the enemy ships disintegrated, their debris scattered across the cosmic void. Status report on the Valorian ship. He called out. Zaraketh's fingers flew over her controls. They're alive. Damaged, but alive. The bonded pair aboard is safe. Marcus felt a wave of relief wash over him, followed immediately by the realization that the relief wasn't entirely his own. He could sense Zaraketh's emotions as clearly as his own, her joy, her gratitude, and underneath it all, a deep sense of rightness. The bond, he said quietly. It's complete now, isn't it? She turned to look at him, her violet eyes bright with unshed tears. Yes. Can you feel it? Marcus nodded. It was like discovering a new sense he'd never known he was missing. He could feel her presence in his mind, not invasive or overwhelming, but warm and comforting, like coming home after a long journey. What happens now? He asked. Now we face the real challenge, Zaraketh said. The hegemony won't stop with this failure. They'll send more ships, more weapons. The entire galactic collective is at risk. Then we'd better get to work. The rescue and recovery operations took several hours. The surviving Valorians were brought aboard the station, including the bonded pair, a young Valorian female named Lyra Fenn and a human engineer named David Chun. Seeing them together, Marcus began to understand what Zaraketh had tried to explain about the bond. They moved as one, finishing each other's sentences, anticipating each other's needs. But more than that, they radiated a sense of completeness that was almost tangible. How long have you two been bonded? Marcus asked them. 3 weeks, David replied. We met during a cultural exchange program. The moment we saw each other, we knew. It's like finding the other half of your soul, Lyra Fenn added, her hand intertwined with David's. But it's more than romance. The bond gives us strength, clarity, purpose. Marcus glanced at Zaraketh, who was coordinating with the station's authorities. Even across the room, he could feel her presence in his mind, could sense her thoughts and emotions as clearly as his own. The hegemony wants to destroy this, he said. They see it as a threat to species purity. They're right to be afraid. David said grimly, bonded pairs don't just represent unity between species. We represent evolution, the next step in galactic civilization. Over the next few days, reports came in from across the galaxy. The hegemony's attacks were systematic and coordinated. They had identified potential bonding candidates from dozens of species and were eliminating them before connections could form. They're trying to prevent the prophecy from being fulfilled, Zaraketh explained during a strategy meeting. According to ancient texts, when enough interspecies bonds form, it will trigger a new age of galactic consciousness. How many bonds do we need? Marcus asked. The texts aren't clear. Some say 100, others say 1,000. But every pair that forms makes the collective stronger. Marcus studied the tactical reports spread across the table. They're picking. U.S. off one by one. We need to go on the offensive. What are you suggesting? We find the other potential bonding candidates before the hegemony does. Protect them, help them connect, build a network of bonded pairs that can defend itself. That would require resources we don't have. Ships, weapons, personnel. Marcus smiled. And it's a good thing I know where to get them. 3 days later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the mining vessel Terran Resolve, watching as a fleet of converted civilian ships assembled around them. Word had spread quickly through the human colonies about the bonded pairs and the threat they faced. Volunteers had come forward by the thousands, miners, traders, colonists, anyone willing to fight for the future of galactic unity. 37 ships and counting, reported Captain Torres, the vessel's commanding officer. Not exactly a military fleet, but they're all armed and ready. And we have something the hegemony doesn't, Marcus added, feeling Zaraketh's presence. Beside him, we have bonds that make us stronger than the sum of our parts. The first rescue mission was a success. They reached the Antaran system just ahead of a hegemony strike force. Evacuating a research station where 2 potential bonding candidates, a human xenobiologist and an Antaran philosopher, had just discovered their connection. The second mission was harder. They had to fight their way through a hegemony blockade to reach a trading post where 3 different species' potential bonds were under attack. But they succeeded, and the network grew stronger. By the end of the first month, they had rescued 47 bonded pairs and established a mobile fleet of protection ships. The hegemony's systematic elimination campaign had been disrupted, and new bonds were forming faster than they could be destroyed. You know, Marcus said one evening as he and Zaraketh stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. A few months ago, I was just a mining supervisor worried about quarterly quotas. And now you're the leader of an interspecies alliance, dedicated to protecting the future of galactic civilization, she replied with a smile. It's been quite a career change. Zaraketh moved closer to him, their bond humming with contentment. Do you regret it? Marcus thought about everything they'd experienced together, the battles, the rescues, the growing network of bonded pairs who looked to them for leadership. He thought about the future they were building, where species barriers would dissolve, and consciousness would expand beyond anything the galaxy had ever known. No, he said finally, I don't regret any of it. This is who I was meant to be, who we were meant to be. The mark of destiny, she said softly, tracing the scar on his arm with her finger. The mark of the future, he corrected. And we're just getting started. Above them, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but Marcus could feel that change was coming. The age of isolation was ending, and the age of unity was about to begin. And at the center of it all, bonded pairs like him and Zaraketh would light the way forward. A universe had indeed chosen well.